topic says, we have co-authored this paper. Tina was my guest. She's an English teacher at Durham Academy, North Carolina. And how I met her, I went for a program which is called ILEF, and I'm especially talking that it's a very good program and all of you can apply for it. It's called International Leaders in Education Program. It's wholly sponsored by the US government. You don't spend a penny. You get to spend 6 months in a US university, and you also get to intern in a school there. So when I went there, I have become an alumni, and you get into the database, and then you are with them, and they ask you to host this course, which is voluntary. Now, she had come last year, and we are in touch. And when I came to know about the conference, I asked her, would you like to come? And she was very keen to come and present it. But then, of course, it's expensive coming all the way. So what I asked her, that you send a video recording of your presentation. So I'm going to play that for her. And there was some kind of a communication gap with the organization here. They did not, though she has sent the proposal, her name did not register here. So first I'll play it and then I'll talk about. She brings in the American perspective of how, why and how to develop global citizens, and I'll try to bring the Indian perspective.
Yeah.
I think I will.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tina Bassius, and I'm speaking to you from my classroom at Durham Academy in Durham, North Carolina. I really wish I could be there in Hyderabad for this conference, but it wasn't possible for me to make another trip to India. And so I am very grateful to my colleague Mala Singh, who I know will represent our effort very clearly to you all. So just in case you're curious, I've created a map here that shows you where Durham, North Carolina is on the east coast of the United States. And this is my current 9th grade class of world literature students in a picture that we took on the first day of school. Our students, as they make their way through higher education and adult life, enter an increasingly global flow of ideas, products, and people. They compete and collaborate on a global scale. They rub elbows with an incredible range of humanity, and they discover like minds in distant places. From violence and climate change to diplomacy and rising life expectancy, the potential for terrible and beautiful outcomes has never been greater. Our job as educators is to prepare students for adult life 15, 20, even 50 years in the future. It's a daunting task, but the current pace of change makes it all the more so. Once we get past the feeling of intimidation, though, I think it's fascinating to come up with goals for our students' education. There are many organizations and individuals who are working on this project. Oxfam, the Asia Society, Tony Wagner get a lot of attention in the United States. I think it's helpful to read their work, but also important to keep thinking for ourselves. So here I give you my own definition as a work in progress. A global education prepares students to identify the cultural context of information and seek other perspectives, to express themselves in more than one language for a range of audiences using oral, written, and visual means. It prepares students to seek meaningful interaction with those who speak and think and live differently from themselves. It prepares students to seek common ground where it might not be evident on the surface, and to engage with the world's problems and opportunities. It prepares students to be aware of far-reaching effects of their individual choices and to balance a sense of personal and cultural identity with an openness to others. As English teachers, we have fabulous opportunities to globalize our students' experience. After all, globalization rests on strong communication, not just at the surface level of expressing ideas and comprehending others' ideas, but at the deeper level of articulating what's assumed, inferring people's motivations, developing mutual understanding. One of the ways we do this is through content, and here I'm going to focus on literature. It can give us insight into the motivations and values of characters whom we might not understand at all if we encountered them in real life. So in The Tempest, for example, Shakespeare lays out a web of relationships around Prospero, while Caliban alone represents the native people. The inferiority of Caliban is clear and consistent in the text. My students of world literature study this play, and one of them, Eric Holmes, created this diagram for me because I am artistically challenged. After reading The Tempest, we study Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe's novel, where Okonkwo and other villagers have the highly developed social structure, and Europeans are the confusing, disconnected, and of course ultimately destructive characters. In this unit, my students examine encounters with the other through a structured series of questions. Here I'll give it to you in a little bit more readable version. And these questions are designed to develop an understanding of Shakespeare's and Achebe's contrasting portrayals of this literary archetype of the other. Students then seek examples of such encounters in current events and their relatives' lives, applying the same set of questions that were used for the literary encounters. And finally, students write up the stories of these real encounters and share them in digital form with classmates. Through these activities, students develop capacities relating to the goals number 1, 3, and 4 that I outlined earlier. Here they are. In my world literature course, we also study works from the Indian subcontinent, about a 6-week unit in which we read stories from Malgudi days, Narayan's translation of the Ramayana, and short works by Ramanujan and Faiz, Taslima Nasrin, Jaffrey, Tagore. I can't say that I think these works are widely taught in American schools, but I'm also sure that my school isn't alone in including them on our syllabi. So how broad is the cultural representation in your curriculum? The hard part about change isn't adding new works. It's making room for them by subtracting, by giving up great works that we already teach. My department had a significant experience with this process when we decided 3 years ago to create a writing course in the spring of 11th grade. To make room for it, we cut the existing 11th grade course, American Literature, in half. Here's the original syllabus that we worked with for many years, various incarnations of it, but this is one. And here's the new one-semester version. We had to let go of a lot, and in a way it makes me sad to look back at the older syllabus because I still miss the old friends that were on it. But I can also say that the new one-semester course feels like a decent introduction to American literature. Moreover, the opportunity to focus deeply on writing instruction has been positively received by teachers and students. This experience has been a helpful touchstone as my school considers curricular changes. In the U.S., some teachers are allowed to use their discretion in making substitutions in their curricula, while others have to really fight for administrative approval. It all depends on our teaching context. Either way, though, the first step is to develop a rationale. If we believe in changing curriculum to globalized perspectives, and we choose works that will help us do so, we can then work toward implementation in whatever manner our context allows. So next, I'd like to talk to you about methods and globalizing the curriculum in that way. And here I have to say that American students do not generally come to school with a burning curiosity about the world. If offered an opportunity, for example, to stay after school and hear a presentation about life in India, I'm afraid relatively few would stay. Perhaps the curiosity level is higher there. On the other hand, I'm not concerned because, in a sense, we all are used to having to motivate our students. It's not as if they present to us with a universal interest in literature or Spanish grammar or the First World War. So we cajole and threaten and reward them, and to varying degrees we succeed in gaining their attention. There are lots of ways to bring the world to students' attention in math class and science and history, really any discipline, but I'm going to focus on how to harness a valuable asset for the study of English. And here it is, the abundant social energy of adolescence. I don't know if my picture captures it terribly well, but this is the scene in our student commons actually this morning. When students are arriving to school and they all gather in these knots of people very eager to interact with each other. And I think they're also eager to interact with their counterparts in other countries, and doing so makes them intensely curious about the world. There are two basic approaches to harnessing their social energy to create international interactions. One is to join an existing project, and the other is to create your own. Existing projects are offered by numerous organizations, including these. The challenge of implementing their offerings is to make them fit into your particular structure of class meetings, exams, graduation requirements, and such. A little bit can go a long way, though. If you try just one such project, I guarantee you'll get a strong sense of how to proceed. The other approach is to work your personal connections that you might have established through travel, through professional associations, and things like that. The English companion Ning is very helpful, and so is Edmodo. Those both offer networks, and perhaps you have others at your disposal. Designing your own project with a teacher or two from another country has the benefit of flexibility. You can shape it to really meet your teaching goals. But of course, it also has the risk of falling apart. On a number of occasions, I've invested lots of time and energy into exciting projects that got derailed by weather, strike, even war. This year, though, I did finally complete one of those projects in my 10th grade course, The Literature of Western Europe. The idea for it came to me in September when I ran across a notice from a teacher seeking partners for collaborative study of Italo Calvino's novel, Invisible Cities. Though I hadn't taught the novel before, I decided it would fit in my syllabus if it replaced Kafka's Metamorphosis as a relatively contemporary work that we learn and usually do in the spring. In this case, I put it in the syllabus in November, and my students read the work on a schedule coordinated with classes in two other schools, one in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the other in Linköping, Sweden. The three sets of students responded to writing prompts in Wikispaces, which is a free tool for online collaboration. Though we were never online simultaneously, it was always exciting to start class by opening Wikispaces and seeing what the other classes had written. We didn't end up being able to coordinate the final projects for this unit. Hurricane Sandy interrupted communications with New York, and the Swedish group had to finish up their unit while the Americans were on Thanksgiving vacation. So it goes. The students got to see very different approaches to the novel, and they wrote with great care, knowing that their work would be read and commented on by students in the other schools. And besides that, their personal map of the world now includes new points in Linköping and Poughkeepsie. In terms of goals,